Racism, one of the most talked about topics in today's society, and one of Australia's major issues as a community. I am Palash Mapika, African Australian journalist, here to educate American youth on the ongoing racism on Indigenous Australians. To help you understand exactly who the Indigenous Australians are and what they went through, here's a little backstory. About 200 years ago, a British Navy ship landed in Australia carrying a couple hundred convicts. Of course, the indigenous Australians, the owners of the land, were already inhabiting the area, but had been living almost hidden from the world. They had no knowledge of the outside technologies and really didn't care for it. They were one with the earth and each other. They had a rich culture with over 700 languages, but the British did not care. Long story short, the indigenous were blindsided by the guns and weaponry from the British and were eventually conquered. The indigenous were tortured, scrutinized, and completely abused. They were raping, families were torn apart, leaders killed, complete tribes just wiped out. To this day, the indigenous have never recovered. Racism towards the indigenous is an ongoing cycle. What the indigenous went through, I mean, who could recover from? Wessa Enoch, an indigenous Australian playwright, wrote a play called The Seven Stages of Grieving, in which we see an Aboriginal woman telling stories of grief, racism, and going through the emotions they once felt and still feel today. There's a scene in the play entitled Nana's Story. During Nana's story, the main character Mori describes her late Nana. Nana is an Aboriginal old lady who fears all in authority, especially all the people we should turn to for help, like the police, the government, and even churches. This is all because of the turmoil Aboriginals faced years ago, people in authority abusing their power. Back then is still haunting the Indigenous today. And to make matters worse, it's not like anything's changed. In 2016, Aboriginal male Leon Petrel was tasered, captured, sprayed, punched, and kicked by police officers, then charged with assaulting them. A clear example of the abuse of power. Not only does this happen in Australia, even over there in America, you have the Black Lives Matter movement, or because people in authority are able to abuse their power. So there's just this ongoing cycle of abuse, and the vulnerable, such as the indigenous, African Americans, Middle Easterns, Asians, and Hispanics, are all at the backbone of all of this. There's more to racism than just the physical. There are many little aspects which play a huge role in the effects, like the silent discrimination. No one has to say anything in particularly racist, but it's prejudice against people of color, indigenous, and many more, which speaks volumes. In a scene from Social Grieving entitled Murray Gets a Dress, in summary, Murray, an innocent Aboriginal girl, goes shopping. As she's shopping, she encounters scenarios where she's discriminated for her color. She walks into the store, immediately staff are told to be alert of her as if she's a thief. She's singled out into special change rooms where cameras are watching her. Murray even experiences the extreme with more cops and sniffer dogs following. Imagine every time you walk out the house, people are looking at you funny, whispering at you like you're not there. People in Australia have preconceived prejudiced ideas about the Aboriginals based on the past and misconstrued truths. People everywhere experience this. For example, every day a Middle Eastern man gets on a bus and automatically people are scared. Or a black man sees you've dropped your purse and who reach for it in an attempt to help you pick it up, but your initial response is that he's trying to steal it. Even in Zimbabwe, a black-dominated country, a white man goes into a grocery store, instantly people are looking at him all suspicious. It's situations like these, the little subconscious things that we all do, and I can tell you that in Australia are mainly because of the past racism, past beliefs, and past falsehoods against Aboriginals. In the past, the Indigenous name was slandered and dragged through the mud, and the Indigenous have never fully recovered. And unfortunately, situations like this occur more often than usual. Basically, experiences of the past will always influence the present and future. All over the world, racism is present, and in Australia, it is clear that it's an ongoing and seemingly never ending course. We as a nation can only hope to open our minds to new ways of living in harmony and peace where we can move on towards building a better Australia than onto a better world.